Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for what promises to be a lively, fast-paced session debating the statement, "The pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage." So firstly, I'd just like to introduce myself as I'll be the moderator for this debate. My name is Rosanna Chatterton-Sparks. I'm an educator and founder of SustainEd Limited, which is an education service with the mission of making education meaningful, relevant, accessible for all, whilst embedding global citizenship education and skills-based learning into the curricula. And today joining me, I have two experts. We have Global Citizenship Foundation's very own Aaryan Salman and his opponent, Salette Coelho. So I'm sure you're all aware that Aaryan is the president of the Global Citizenship Foundation and chief listener at the global debates, but today he'll be taking on the role of a debater. He's currently one of UNESCO's MGIEP's youth leaders on the prevention of violent extremism and UNESCO's APCU Global Citizenship Education Youth Leader. Aaryan will be putting forward points in agreement with this statement. And then we have Salette, who's an educator, researcher, and project consultant in the field of development education and global citizenship education at the Centre for African Studies of the University of Porto and the Polytechnic Institute of Viana do Castelo. She's also the coordinator of the Secretariat of the National Strategy on Development Education in Portugal. And Salette will be providing points opposing the statement. So before we get started, I would just like to share a little bit about how the Global Debates format works to help set the scene, and a little bit of a disclaimer. So you will have noticed that at the global debates, there have been provocative statements rather than broad questions or topics. And the reason for this is that when you answer a question, you're simply responding with a yes or a no. But these statements really allow us to dig deeper. So by using specific bold statements, we give ourselves the opportunity to really engage in these difficult debates, exploring different perspectives and challenging each other's ideas. I'd also like to remind everybody that the debate statements you'll hear today do not reflect the personal views of the organisers, the conference team, or the Global Citizenship Foundation. The positions the participants will be taking have been assigned only hours before the start of this debate. So while they'll be debating passionately for their side, they are doing so for the sake of this debate, not necessarily because they personally agree with the position they have been assigned. Now, we understand this format can sometimes put our experts in a tough spot, especially you, Aaryan, as they may be asked to argue a position they don't fully align with, or for that matter, even agree with. But that's what makes these debates so valuable. So it challenges us to think critically, to step outside of our comfort zones, and to explore an issue from all perspectives. So there'll be 5 rounds, and each debater will have around 2 minutes per round to get their points across. We'll have some time at the end of the 5 rounds to answer any questions that you may have in the audience, so please do add them to the question and answer section during the session. Okay, so now the formalities are over, let us begin. So a reminder of the statement being debated. The pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage. So Aaryan, I will come to you first.
Thank you so much, Rosanna, and thank you, Salette, for agreeing to debate with me. It's a privilege and honor to be debating with you. Before I get into my arguments, I would like to unpack the statement. The statement has 3 parts. First, the pursuit of global citizenship, the idea that global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage, and the very notions of, say, global citizenship, national identity, and cultural heritage. As we all know that there's no single definition for global citizenship, it's very contested. For the sake of this argument, we will go with the UN definition, which is global citizenship is an umbrella for social, political, environmental, economic actions of globally minded individuals and communities on a worldwide scale. Where you see national identity as a sense of belonging and shared identity with the nation state or a country, it often involves collective characteristics, values, language, traditions, symbols, and history that binds everyone within a country, contributing to a shared identity amongst these people. Whereas cultural heritage is the legacy of both tangible and intangible attributes inherited from past generations that define a culture and its history. Now, our national identities have been shaped by our historical and local experiences. History of the world, in many ways, we can say, is a history of brutality, exploitation, and wars. Culture, as well as our collective attributes inherited from the past, these are also influenced by our collective memory and our national histories. So the pursuit of global citizenship weakens these influences, undermines or dilutes their effects on the individual. So therefore, I agree with the statement, the pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage for good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaryan. Okay, La Salette, over to you, please.
Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you, Aaryan. Thank you for inviting me to be here. So, surprisingly, I do not agree with this statement. So, I don't think that the pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage. And as Aaryan, what I think is that this sentence is built in some misconceptions of concepts. So I would like exactly to start, as Arian said, to question lots of the big concepts that we have here and to explain better what we mean with all of them. So I will start with citizenship and then we will see. But the notion of citizenship, it's you know, it's not just one meaning. We can use citizenship as a national identity, and a legal status actually, but it's not just that. Citizenship could be also seen as a practice, so a participative dimension could see also as an identity, a relational dimension, so how I relate with others, the sense of belonging that we were speaking. And it's seen it in the 20th century that citizenship is becoming more disconnected with the notion of a territory. So I think we should address this question of citizenship. Even in the ancient Greece, with the term of cosmopolitanism, a bit of global citizenship also meant those who considered humanity more important than its own city. So I believe that this we have to the first thing that I would advise us to looking at this sentence is the question of this notion of citizenship. The state does not disappear. The national identity does not disappear, but the notion of belonging, as Arian was saying, what global citizenship promotes is not just to a territory, but it's to a common shared humanity. We have to think that citizenship, this part of the legal dimension, is excluding people. It's not, can include the ones that were born on, but exclude the others. And we must think as, citizens of the world, of persons that, inhabit the same planet, if we want a notion of citizenship that exclude people from rights, so that is my first argument, is that we should address what citizenship means to understand better what global citizenship means and why it does not undermine national identity and cultural heritage.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, La Salette. And thank you, Aaryan. So
Thank
moving
you.
on to round two. Aaryan, we'll come back to you.
So I'm going to pick on the idea of citizenship that La Salette was talking about. So I'm going to come up with a practical example out here. Imagine you are sailing a boat. And while you're sailing a boat, you are on the national boat where you're thinking, okay, my national interests are important. And then you see another beautiful boat that looks like, okay, that's global citizenship. Let me put my foot out there too. And the problem with that is perhaps while you sail on two boats, it's extremely difficult to be aligned to one. And there are conflicts out there. So I feel on that end, La Salette's statement made little sense to me in this context. So I would really emphasize on the side that the pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity as well as cultural heritage. And I have a couple of points to make in favor of that. While, say, global citizenship encourages respect and exploration for diverse traditions globally, provides for platforms to share and celebrate national cultures. In many ways, it risks commodifying cultures, diluting the meaning and turning sacred symbols into aesthetic choices. For example, the idea of incorporating other cultures, like, say, for example, folks using Native American headdresses, which end up becoming accessories for people to, like, appreciate cultures, would also mean that in some ways we are losing out on the spiritual and cultural significance of that. The same goes with, say, clothes from Africa or elsewhere. So the cultural dimension to it can be really harsh. The second thing is, say, for example, it also um, creates this tourist version of our culture. Like, cultural practices can be so simplified for global appeal that they lose out on their meaning. Uh, so these are some of the things why I feel that the pursuit of global citizenship undermines. I'm not saying it takes away global citizen, what do you call, national identity or heritage, but I'm focusing on it undermining national identity and cultural heritage. So
Mhm.
over to you, Lasalet.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Aaryan.
Aaryan.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
let's
So,
over to you.
just because you spoke about boats, Arian, I will give you another example. Last, why I believe in global citizenship education, and that is, does not undermine its national identity and cultural heritage, but includes. When I last year I was living in Valencia, in Spain, in near the Mediterranean, and going to what I explained before, to the three notions of citizenship. So I was not a Valencian because I was born in Portugal, so I'm not a Spanish citizen. I feel as a practice, I feel a Valencian. I felt a Valencian because I was protesting in the streets. I was participating a lot, and as a notion of identity, I really felt like a Valencian because I love, the time scale. I love to be out in the street at night, enjoying the sun in the Mediterranean, all of that. But the same Mediterranean where I was, being a tourist, and because I have a European passport, I could be, if I were in a boat and a disaster happens, I would be picked up because I have the right nationality. Lots of migrants that comes from other parts of the world are buried in the same Mediterranean where I was, able to be a tourist. So global citizenship makes us think about this, makes us think if there is the right, of something, the place where I was born, this lottery of birth where that I did not choose, makes me have more rights than other people in the planet. So that is really important in favor of global citizenship, and protecting even the national identities. You know what I mean? Because it's for everyone. It's giving access to rights for everyone. So this is the point that I would like to make, also using a boat metaphor. Then you spoke about cultures and about the globalization of cultures. And this is the second part of the global citizenship that I would like to address. So I addressed the citizenship part, and now I'd like to address the global part. I think that we also can use this global um, misconception of this global being globalization. But it's not what global means here. When you said about this, homogenization of cultures, it's one consequence, bad consequence of the globalization that we have. But global, in global citizenship, does not mean that. We have an author, Charlotte, saying that there are three attitudes toward globalization. The ones that are privileged, they don't want to lose their rights, so they are for, this kind of globalization we have. The ones that are really believe that this, competition, global market will really save us. So the law of the jungle. But there are other people, the other movement, it's called alter globalization or alter mondialization, that promote, that it's opposed to this kind of globalization that is homogenizing. I hope you understand my words, and claim that other world is possible. So I really believe in this global, in this sense of the globalization as looking for the common good and having everyone in his differences, fighting for the common good. So this is also my argument for this global not being as globalization and homogenization of cultures.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Salette.
I love the way you put across the idea of globalization and pitching what do you call global citizenship as a response to globalization. I think that was beautiful. I must agree, Lasalette. Um, However, like from my point of view, if I have to put this at this point in time, what you spoke about was cultural adaptation, or adaptation to a national situation. Uh, which was very relevant in your case when you give that example. But I also do feel that I mean, like you did take a side out there where you said, okay, I went to the protest and I took a particular side. And that is where the problem comes in, La Salette, from my point of view out here. So the idea that you pick sides would also mean that, like, you're choosing something that might be more relevant from your point of view. So locally, say, for example, there might be more pressing issues that might need more attention, that might have been missed out. So the idea that, like, okay, I participated in a national discourse and I strengthened it, might not be fully what do you call backed from all sides. So keeping that in mind, I think I would also like to add, like, say, for example, the idea of this global citizenship, that we need to have universal standards, universal values, universal, what do you call, attributes of individuals. I think it's somehow this comes in clash with cultural beliefs, eroding cultural norms and social practices. So it can be more detrimental to national, what do you call, cultures, national identity, and cultural heritage. So I feel I can also give you one example around this, right? So in a lot of contexts, in a lot of countries, when we talk about human rights, in fact, in my context, when I talk about human rights as part of global citizenship education, I've had backlash from teachers, well meaning teachers, who would end up saying something like, oh, this is not something as part of our cultural practice. And then I start to think, okay, why is that so? And then when you dig deeper, you understand that, okay, some of the things that we promote might not be in line with the cultural requirements or the local traditions or uh, beliefs, right? So, therefore, I agree with the statement: the pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identity and cultural heritage.
Okay, so I hear you, Aaryan, and I have to say that I will get to something, to a point where I will agree with you, but let me disagree first. So of course, when you say that I took some part, I choose I pick the sides when we participate, but that is human life. Every day we make choices. Every global citizenship education can help us, good informed choices, because as citizen, every day what you buy, what you teach, what you speak, what you vote, every decision of your life is a political one, is showing your way, your thoughts about the world, your dreams about the world you are constructing, the world that you believe. So of course I don't feel, attacked when you say that I pick the side. Of course, I do it every day. Even here today, we are picking sides. We are debating that every day in my family. In family dinners, I pick sides. So it's good. And global citizenship help us to do it responsibly, informed. So for me, it's a really good, a really good thing what you have just said. Then I agree with you that we have this tension about how to promote universal values while respecting singularity. In that point, I agree with you. And this tension exists. We should not, ignore it, But there again is the role of global citizenship, is not undermining national identities and cultural heritages, but it's allowing the dialogue that we are having here. It's about, engaging in difficult conversations, is about dissensions also. We don't have to be, agree on everything. It's about our openness to dialogue, celebrating diversity. It's finding, I have lived in several countries, in very different from my culture. Valencia is really similar in Spain, but I lived in African countries, for instance, and this cultural negotiation happened every day of my life. I had dilemmas every day. But if I go with these global citizenship lenses, I will do it better. I'm open, to this dialogue. So of course that there is this tension, but I believe that it's a good tension. And if we go for not global citizenship, we could, risk to be in our own silence. I believe this, you believe that, and we do not connect. And I believe that global citizenship is about connection. Believe that is really, really important.
Thank you so much, La Salette, for putting across your advocacy for global citizenship. So, as far as I am concerned, I think I could see that openness and understanding of diverse perspectives right in the way you put it across. And I think that's the beauty of pursuing global citizenship. However, when you look at global citizenship undermining national identities and cultural heritage, you see that there's a blurring of line when you become a global citizen. There's this blurring of line between, like, us and them. The idea of, like, okay, we all in this together. That's the idea that comes in, but that also blurs the cultural roots, uh, leading to a loss of cultural specificity. I can give you a couple of examples. Like, say for example, a person who is multicultural adopts this identity of global citizen, uh, does not fully immerse in one culture, and might want to bring in solutions that might work elsewhere. So one example of this is also the architecture that we see in our cities. So years ago, I mean, say, like, I think before the whole idea of globalization, global citizenship, the very notion of us being global citizens on a massive scale, being a possibility due to internet and all of these things, I feel we have cookie cutter architecture now. You go to any country, you'll find similar buildings, and that takes away those cultural aspects. While it's connecting all of us, making us open, it's also home, like creating this kind of a space where there's no diversity. Very few places, even in Europe, also retain what do you call their cultural what do you call characteristic. But if you see in the global south, you'd not find cultural characteristics being preserved. So in that sense, I also feel that while this is good coming together, doing all of this, it's also leading some people to change. And those some people are not powerful people. These are people from the global south in many cases who are trying to follow something that they think is more modern. So with that, I believe the pursuit of global citizenship and global identities leads to undermining of national identities and cultural heritage.
Mhm. Yes, may
Yeah,
I?
thank you, Aaryan. Okay, La Salette, would you like to respond
So
to that?
yes, of course. So thank you, Arian. I believe I see where you are coming, and this I had read that written in my notes that attention to the risks of global citizenship becoming another power game, and I see what you are saying, but again, I think this is the globalization, is not global citizenship. It's two different concepts. I totally agree. I'm a fighter, for instance, for the plurality of languages. I speak 6 languages, and I intervene usually in the language of the country where I am, if I know it. You know what I mean? So I really understand what you are saying, and I think we need to fight that globalization that tries to make us all equal. But again, global citizenship does not mean that. Global citizenship is really another thing. And I will go on my argument about this national identity. So I have questioned the global, the citizenship. Now I'm going to national identity. And I think there is also a misconception about national identities. Sometimes when we speak about national identities, we believe that they are, one. So, the Indians or the Portuguese or the British, but that is wrong. There are lots of, diversity within our own countries, within our own cultures. So I think that is something that we should acknowledge. So there is no such thing as national identity. There are national identities. That there is something that I really would like to stress. And again, we most of the times we think they are immutable, that they don't change over time. But my degree, my basic degree, 30 years ago, it was in history, and something that we learn in history, everything is changing over time. What is the Portuguese that we are speaking? The Portuguese of the 20th century, or the 13th century, where Portugal was already formed? We changed a lot. Portuguese, this national identity is always changing. And we got richer because, the Arabics came and the Romans came and people from the north came. You know what I mean? So what makes the Portuguese, if there is some such thing like that, the Portuguese, and I'm using Portuguese because I am Portuguese, I was born in Portugal, but what makes us, who we are right now is actually this amalgamation of all the people that we have had in our territory. So, and I don't think that this undermines our national identities. I believe that these encounters enrich our national identities, and on the move, because they are always on the move, they get richer. And if we have the global citizenship lenses of looking at these, these changes, could help us to have a good way in our national identity. So I think this is the collective heritage is always being constructed. So I'm very happy that Portugal is now receiving people from all over the world, and that we are still, and that is leading us to another form of national identities. Not saying that we are losing some traditions. I feel, I still feel like a Portuguese, even if I eat pizza. That does not undermine my national identity. Even if I like, if I danced bolero, like I'm in Latin American right now, so I don't feel less Portuguese because of that. There is a author that says, "I am all those I have met on my way," and I think that is true personally, as a person, and also as a culture. So we are all, those we have met on our way, and that makes us richer, not less richer, not poorer. That's next to you, Aaryan.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Thank you so much, Salette. Okay, so we're coming into our final round now. So round 5, Aaryan, I wonder if you have, I'll give you a little bit of extra time here so you can respond to La Salette, but also add in your closing statement if you'd like to.
thank you so much, Rosanna. So, Lacelet, I really, really appreciate the statement that you made, that we are who we meet. And I think that is the problem with the pursuit of global citizenship, right? So we end up meeting people who are others, who are from the outside, and trying to understand them, the international understanding component of it, while we might miss out on, say, our subnational or sub-regional meetups, or like aspiration to connect with them is a lot more with international understanding, as opposed to, like, say, for example, when you're in pursuit of global citizenship, you don't say, oh, I want to go meet my neighbor from the next city and understand how they do it. You want to know what the other country or the other what do you call outgroup is doing. So I feel in that sense, um, that this weakens, like, the subnational understanding, the subcultural understanding of other cultures within the nation state or the country. So this is one of the things that I felt. But I also feel that while, say, global citizenship is uniting people, developing this respect for diversity, promoting inclusion, again, like, it tries to create this one global identity that we are all in this together, we are all the same, while eroding national distinctions. It erodes the power structures that exist, or I mean, so like, it might embrace those structures without fully addressing challenges and root causes of what do you call the problems that we have in the world today. So, for example, the adoption of, like, say, Western holiday system, or like Christmas and Halloween being, like, even in places where the idea of Christmas and Halloween does not exist. So all of these things, when you see, yes, it's doing something to our societies. It's changing us. It's making us rich, as La Salette says. But at what cost is my question. With that, I yield the floor to La Salette.
So thank you, Aaryan, for again stressing that idea that I do not agree with. So you brought this notion of local and global, and I think that I would like to stress that global citizenship has that in mind in its lenses. That it's important in global citizenship education, these interdependencies, understanding the complexities of situations, understanding different perspectives, and connecting this local with the global. I was speaking about identities before, national identity, and I said that they are plural. My identity as a person, as the country, it's plural. So I'm not just Portuguese. I'm a woman. I'm white. I'm Catholic. I'm raised in a big family. All of that makes me with what I am, and parts of me are changing. We are always changing. So the plural, these things of the plural identities are very important. I feel like a Portuguese person. I believe because of the ocean, because of my traditions. I have this nostalgia that is really a part of the Portuguese identity. But I'm also lots of other things and I connect with Rosanna. I don't know if I have more in common with Rosanna because we are, from the same generation. We are women. That then from with a Portuguese person that is, 80 years old, that lives totally things different than I did. So national identity is one part of ourselves. So don't forget about it. And because if we make everything about national identities, then we fall into nationalism, and that is dangerous also. So global citizenship help us, is this compass that help us balance this local, this global, and these multiple, identities that we have, and they can be all together. We have these tensions, these dilemmas that I built, that I said before, but we can address them, with an open mind and thinking about, this diversity and these perspectives. Again, I think that you are addressing more globalization as a danger than global citizenship. That is really one of my important statements. I would like just end with something, agreeing with the sentence. If you allow me, I know that you hire me for the other part, but just saying that there is some culture heritage needs to be questioned, needs to be undermined. When I will give you some examples, and global citizenship education can help us on that. Imagine, I've heard, I have lived in places where there are populations where the female genital mutilation was something that was happening for the ladies. So this is still a practice. So global citizenship can help us question these practices and maybe change these cultural heritages because it deserves to be challenged. When girls' and women's rights are denied because of cultural heritage. So it's important that global citizenship undermines this cultural heritage, at least try to understand that factor, to deconstruct it, and evolve the culture. When people with disabilities are ostracized because they are seen as evil or demon, you know what I mean. So sometimes the global citizenship lenses can help to unpack and challenge assumptions and worldviews. And that is really important also in this world. So critical thinking, critical engagement is very important, and global citizenship education can bring this into the discussion. So yes, sometimes it can undermine cultural heritage, and that's not a bad thing.
Thank you so much, La Salette and Aaryan, for your final points there, and your closing statements. Very compelling arguments on both sides, and very clear which side you are arguing for there. So thank you so much. I think now we've got a few questions in the question and answer section. So we'll go to the audience's questions first. And then once we've done those, I'll open it up and see if you have questions for each other. So if we can have a look at, we've got 3 questions, I think, so we can answer these first. So the first one, are national identities necessarily tied to cultural heritage? Could we preserve cultural heritage even if national identities are undermined? So Aaryan, I'll come to you first, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm still on my side. So I would just like to confirm that I'm on the side of the statement, the pursuit of global citizenship undermines national identities.
Yes, absolutely. So for these questions, you'll be remaining in agreement.
Yeah, so I do feel that the very idea of cultural heritage comes from us being part of a group where we feel, oh, we are distinct as a group. This is what our culture is. And this is what we have inherited from our, what do you call, forefathers or forebearers or whatever is a more inclusive idea of looking at it. Forefathers is not the only thing. So the idea that we have inherited it from our past generation shows that cultural heritage is often tied to national identity. And by national identities, I don't mean the broader, what do you call, modern idea of national identity as if you are Indian, you're Indian, or if you're from, say, Europe, you're European. I think you also have subnationalities within the entire ecosystem. So I think it passes from one generation to another, one region to within that region or within that group of people. So I don't think they are not tied. So they're actually tied. So that was the first part. I think if national identities are undermined, cultural heritage loses its value and significance in the sense if you're not feeling that sense of belonging, you'll not feel a part of that heritage. So I think that's how I would like to see that. Or that's how I see it, not like to see it. Gosh.
Thank you, Aaryan. La Salette, if we could hear from you with that question, please.
I think that the question is very good because actually cultural heritage, it's much broader than the state, than the nation state that has been built in Europe, some centuries ago. So I really believe that cultural heritage can survive without this notion of nation and state. So thank you for that question. It's really important. We can have for me, the ideal world would be without borders, without nation states, but actually respecting the cultural heritages. As you know, again, coming from history, in African countries, the borders sometimes were designed, by colonial countries that did some, measurements, and they divided as they wanted, and actually they cut it lots of cultural heritages, and that is one problem in African countries like now. So I really believe that cultural heritages, they are not totally connected with the state nation, and lots of problems that we are facing right now in lots of countries are exactly because of that, because we tried to impose some physical border that was not then in the Big Bang moment of the world. It's totally social constructed, and we try to restrain lots of cultural diversities within the same notion of state, and that makes lots of problems right now in the world, as we can see.
Thank you so much, both of you, for your answers to that question. So the next question: how can we foster a sense of global citizenship without compromising cultural diversity and local traditions? Who would like to go first with this one? There we go, yeah, Aaryan.
I mean, I'm just thinking, how do I answer this from this point of view.
I can answer if you want.
Sure, Salette, I think you can start. I will counter you.
No, thank you for the question. I really think that global citizenship is really about a sense of belonging. So, and I can belong to many layers, as I was saying. I belong to my family. Maybe I belong to me first, myself, to my characteristics. So, and then I belong to my family, and then I belong to my neighborhood where I participate. I belong to my we have lots of layers of participation, of belonging, and I think the national is one of the layers. It's important. I like to sing fado. Fado is the Portuguese, traditional song. I cry when I hear it. So I'm not less global citizenship because of that. But but I believe that the layer, the broader layer is this belonging to a planet. Also because we face challenges, global challenges for everyone. I love to do, when I speak about these issues with my students at university, I love to do an exercise, about, who loves to dance, who loves to read, who loves to play, who traveled a lot, these kind of things. And something that we all discover at the end of this game that I do is that, we all need the same things. We all have different experiences in the world, of course. We have different, histories. We have different experiences, knowledge, but we all have the same, seeking for love. Everyone is seeking for love, this need of being loved. Everyone fears, everyone, hate it sometime in their lives. We all cry, we all smile, we all get exhilarated. We all want the best for our kids. So the global citizenship is going for that layer where you can feel, compelled to other that is totally different from you, but it's a human being like you are. It's part of the same humanity. So I don't think that these layers, are competing. Of course, there are dilemmas. What is my good for me and good for others? Sometimes these goods are in shock. So as I said, we live these dilemmas daily. But I think that these global citizenship lenses, for going for the common good, is a good compass in our life. So that is for me really the global citizenship. That's why I cannot agree with this sentence.
Okay, I can come in here, Rosanna.
Okay,
So
yes, please do.
I do feel I agree with Salette to a very large extent, but I also feel that it depends on who you're asking this question to, right? There's a bit of power dynamic out there still, right? So somebody who is like, say, for example, coming from a historically or culturally, what do you call, lower power dynamic would want to assimilate with the higher power dynamic. So in that sense, you lose out on cultural diversity and local traditions because you feel that there's something more superior, something more better than this. So while you're having that sense, somehow you lose it in some aspect. So when you come together, there's a give and take. The question is who gives more and who takes more, and who gives less and who takes less. So I think that's the question, right? So I do feel that's the thing. But if you're coming from an equitable footing, which we would really love to see, like worldwide, where every what do you call, a person from their own national identities would feel equal in that sense, then you have a very different dynamic. So I think that is what we need to work towards. How do we bring this equal footing in terms of thinking, in terms of like going about things where people feel more confident about themselves and their cultures and heritages. So yeah, that's my response.
And that is the goal of global citizenship. Exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, so like I can't deny some things are. I mean, so some people are designed to lose, and that's I'm trying not to do that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, both of you, for your answers there. I think we have another question as well, if we can see this one, please. Thank you. So I also heard a lot that global citizenship is a Western idea. colonizing the cultures and languages and values of countries that are small or not powerful enough to propagate their values and cultures. Is that so? And if so, how can we address this?
Okay. So should I go, or Salette, you would like to? You
Go,
want me to
Aaryan.
go?
Go this time. Go, you go.
Okay, so I do feel that. So I think one of the reasons why we feel our work at Global Citizenship Foundation is also important is because I agree with that statement to some extent. Uh, that global citizenship is very broad. We cannot have cookie cutter solutions which say, okay, this is global citizenship. You travel around the world, or you speak a language, or you do this, you become a global citizen. I think there's a social justice or global justice angle to it, right? So I do feel that this is a big challenge, and the way we can address it is by questioning what we are trying to promote within global citizenship. Are we trying to promote an idea because we believe in it, or are we trying to provide a structure where somebody else can come in and say, "Hey, I could use this structure and adapt it to my context." So I think um, of course, global citizenship is not a Western idea. It's existed for millennia in regions around the world. You could see it in, like, say, whether if you're coming from India or the Asian continents, you have this concept of, like, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. You come to the Middle East, there's this whole concept of universalism, universal brotherhood or sisterhood, or the overall universalism that's existing. You come to Europe, you have a lot of concepts that are very aligned to having this cosmopolitan outlook. You go to Africa, you have this whole concept of Ubuntu, and if you go to South America, you have I think it's Sumac. Uh, I'm not getting the yeah.
Cassau.
So you have these concepts worldwide. So it's not a Western concept, and I think that is what we need to underscore. So that's what I feel. So when you say that it's Western, you're just looking at one version of it that's being promoted by somebody who might have had the funds to do that on a massive scale. So I think that's the bottom line. So yeah, Lasale.
Aaron, you made it very easy to agree with you on this, huh? On this one. So I understand the question, and I put that question to myself lots of times, and that is exactly the goal of global citizenship: questioning, unpacking, challenging our own thoughts, and all the time. And I like to just to say that there are authors in the field that are criticizing global citizenship and always thinking about how to make it clearer and yeah, and better understood. And there are some authors that divide global citizenship in different strands. For instance, could be a neoliberal, it's the name of one of the authors, that says this neoliberal vision of global citizenship that can be, this competing in the global market, the law of the jungle, that the strongest survive, and all that. And that is a vision that is not the global citizenship vision. Is the globalization that we were speaking before. That is one thing. That there are others that say that another strand is the humanistic vision of global citizenship, meaning finding, these common values among all of us, like Aaryan was saying. I like also to bring this, for instance, human rights is, it's for everyone in the world, but we can also ask, are they Western? Are they Eurocentric? If they, they were born, they were developed, they were registered in the north of the world. But there are some authors that propose these cultural translations, as Aaryan was saying. The principles and values that are in the human rights can be seen in lots of different cultures. So what we need, and global citizenship is in favor of that, is looking for this cultural translation, how human rights are, could be translated as Ubuntu and Sumakasai, like Aaryan was saying. So I think, like Aaryan was saying, it's not a Western proposal. It's something that it was underlining ancient Greece, as I said, some African, America, Latin American, in Asia for sure. There are also this idea of this, being part of something bigger that is the world. So it's not Western. We have to be always checking the power balances. That's for sure in the discourse. Who is right, who is writing about, who is thinking about this, in which language are we speaking about this. I'm now in Ecuador right now because I'm part of a program of the Ibero-American region, and we make, I'm very proud of producing knowledge in this field in Portuguese and Spanish, to not going always from the mainstream in English. So I'm totally for these kind of discussions. That is again why global citizenship exists.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you. I think we have one last question from the audience, and then we can.
I just wanted to add something that I saw was very beautiful. I think, like from La Salette, like one of the things that I did see La Salette is you uh, taking global citizenship as a response to the ill effects of globalization. And I think that is really interesting to see. And I think that's also something that's very inspiring to see what you do with the different organizations that you have been working with, bringing in voices and uh, engaging in critical dialogue, which is often difficult. So I do remember even during the gene discussions that we had for the declaration, uh, where you were very forthcoming in, like, including, involving, and driving that. So I think that was quite interesting to see, and I think it's always inspiring to have leaders like what you're doing. So irrespective of the stance that I have, I think it's very admirable.
Thank you, Aaryan. Thank you for that. And and I would like to say again, just to stress my idea, that this is not goodwill. This is not charity. This is social justice. That is a really really key point on global citizenship again. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, the final question from the audience. Real global citizenship should advocate for the translation of national interests to global interest. The question is, where does leadership for this emanate from?
Okay, should I go ahead, or let's you like? Okay.
Yes, please do,
Please.
Aaryan. Thank
I'm
you.
going to make a very bold statement right now. I mean, so like, it might just rattle you. I think national interest is a myth. If you see in our present times, national interest is a fiction behind which we run. At the end of the day, as people, we need a planet. We need, like, sustenance. We need to live uh, peacefully in the space that we are. So I do feel that national interest to global, there's nothing called as global interest, right? You'd see experts talking about that too. Um, you can have a humanitarian perspective where you believe that, like, there needs to be some level of equality. So I do feel that global citizenship should advocate for ensuring that, like, you're able to have humanitarian principles embedded within this very notion of national interest, because as humans we are tribal, we are not political, we are not social, we're very tribal, we like to form tribes, and that is the basic nature. We can't fight against it, because we've seen it over centuries with uh, when people come together, they want to form groups. And I jokingly say within my team, you put three people in one room, you will have two groups, you'll have two tribes. So that's the thing, that's the nature of our existence, understanding that, okay, how do we how do we take that fact that we have been noticing? It might not be a fact, it might be an observation that might be by virtue of just, like, coincidence. But the thing is, how do you utilize that and say, okay, how can you embed humanitarian principles within the interest that you think you have? So the leadership for that comes from people, right? uh, I mean, say, you can see in most cases people of the world are more aligned than their governments. right? Or the ruling class in many cases. So I think it's very, very important to figure out ways in which we can channelize this to our governments, right? And I think you can see in a lot of contexts, say for example, philanthropy in some cultures is very much valued, and they push the government to take up philanthropy, right? In other cases, it's something else altogether, right? So I think that with that, I yield the floor to La Salette and Rosanna for their views on this.
Thank you, Aaryan. Yes, La Salette, over to you.
So just to add one or two things, I think that the national interests are getting used right now as a, as a weapon against others. We are in a moment, and I think again, I'm always making this argument that this is a response towards the globalization that we have right now, because we have a globalization that actually tries to erase differences. It's for an elite. So I think that these nationalisms that are growing, these Americans first or Portuguese first, these kind of slogans that we are hearing around the world, is really a response to the collateral damage of the neoliberal globalization that we are living. So we have a risk when we speak about these national interests to make this nationalism growing and growing and growing, and we know where this will end in wars, because it's always, as Aaryan said, always was like this. So I think that we have this risk, and so we have to turn this globalization. We have to change. We have to think, like I've said before, in this alter mondialism, movement. We have to join this alter mondialism movement that is really keen on global citizenship lenses, to change these collateral damages, to do a different kind of globalization, to do a globalization that really is based on a global ethics, on a common, for the common good, for this common humanity. So I believe that really we should go, for these broader layers in our thoughts, and just addressing the leadership. I totally agree with Aaryan. The leadership is ours, is citizens empowered, to make these choices that I said at the beginning, our daily choices as a consumers, as a voters, as participators, in associations, in foundations, creating these kind of spaces, telling this in my classes every day. I do this. I'm a leader in some way. Rosanna is a leader some way. Aaryan is a leader in his way. So we could always be leaders of this change that we want to see. So we are we are the leaders. That's not be afraid of assuming our role in our place where we are, this local part of global citizenship that is thinking on the global, on the common good, on the global ethics.
Amazing. And what a fantastic way to to finish these questions and this debate. It's been absolutely amazing hearing both sides. Aaryan, I think you're in the wrong profession. You should be an actor. You did a fantastic job there, agreeing with this statement. I think we've come to the end of our time, haven't we? So, but I think it's quite clear to everybody that you were playing devil's advocate there, and where your true stance lies within this.
Thank you, Rosanna. I do feel that, like, when I was working uh, on this debate, I think I started working on it yesterday. So I was like, okay, let's push it. And one of the things I felt was like a lot of work that we are doing, I think it's also to address some of the challenges that I was going through. So for me to agree with some of these things was a lot easier now that I look back. So I was super scared because I was facing La Salette, who has been in the sector, like, more than I could think of. Right. So she's been in the development sector for a really long time, and I was like, I would be demolished. I think she gracefully gave me an outlet in some spaces. I'm very grateful to her. But I do feel as an organizer, I'm sorry, as an organizer of global citizenship education initiatives. I'm involved in a lot of these things. And one of the challenges that I have is how do we create these spaces where it could mean a lot more to the local context without dictating terms to them. So I think whether we came up with we have this whole school approach to global citizenship education where we work with schools in developing models for the entire school, and it's very contextualized. So we work with leaders, keeping this in mind that global citizenship education cannot be a cookie cutter solution or say, okay, these are the things that it should have. So we've seen schools prioritizing some of the components of global citizenship more than others. And we sit with them and we ask them, why do you do what you do? And they say, okay, this is very important for us in our context, right? And then we are like, okay, are there any other issues that you think might be risky that you're not taking up? So we engage with them on a very personal level. And I think when I looked at the entire debate, yes, of course, at some points I do feel that national identity and all of these things are valid concerns that people might have, but they're also very exaggerated, right? So it strips away, like what Salette was also talking about, it takes away the unwanted aspects of cultural heritage that one might have or national identity that one might have. So yeah, being balanced is very important, I feel, like specifically when you're taking something like this. So I may say when Salette was talking about some of the things, I was like, I wish I could say, yes, I second that. So I tried. So yeah, I think it was beautiful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to listen to as well. Thank you. And I think what, the main take home here really is that, national identity and global citizenship are mutually exclusive, aren't they? They complement each other. And as you were saying, Salette, we build upon our national identity, we add to it rather than take away from it. And so I think that's, that's key to remember here when we're promoting global citizenship education, that we're not taking away from this, but we're adding to and making it a richer experience and identity for all. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Rosanna,
Okay.
for being a great host. Salette, thank you for being a great opponent.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having invited me to this moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.